Welcome back to Exquisite Conversations, where we bring you the most interesting topics, artists, community, education, the Black culture, and we economize on how that impacts the community, through the choice of art form. So, welcome. This is another, you know, Soulful Sunday with Exquisite Conversation podcast, and definitely have a star-studded episode with a star-studded artist. And so tonight we're going to be chopping it up about his music, about the culture, and how he impacts, the community with his music, and how he just celebrate his art form throughout his journey of life. And so none other, all the way from Canada, S. What's up, man?
Peace, 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 peace. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm great. I'm great, man. So happy to have you on, man. And Um, shout out to MJ, for giving us this opportunity. I definitely
Word.
appreciate how she navigates, her clients and get them to different parts of the world, so
Word.
they can express their components to the hip hop culture. Culture, excuse me. So, who is
Word.
S? Well, for people that don't want to know, first of all, before we get into who you are, I'm gonna go ahead and let you properly introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. So my name is S, hip hop MC out of a city called Mississauga, Ontario. That's about 20 minutes outside of Toronto. Um, been a avid hip hop fan since the late 80s. Inspired by the KRS Ones of the world, the EPMDs, the Tribe Called Quests, groups like that. Just been dabbling since early 90s. Fast forward to like 2007 is when I first released music to the public, via MySpace and other platforms. And I've just been pushing ever since. Just been plugging away at the music ever since. Just released my sixth album this past February, and working on the seventh that I'm hoping to get out later this year. So just plugging away, just trying to get as many ears and eyes on what I'm doing, and just trying to contribute, make my contribution to the culture the best way I know how. So that's it in a in a nutshell.
Okay, okay, okay. Appreciate that. Appreciate you summing that up. And we do have um somebody tapping in. If you can read that on the screen, it's funny.
Ah, tout recording. Shout out to my man Righteous. He's an inside joke. The
I
inside
know,
joke.
I know, I know, I know. I get it. I get it though. I get it. I get it. I get it. So that's what's up, man. That's what's up, man. So appreciate you tapping in, man. Stay tuned, man, as we chop it up about his journey and just where he plans to go with the culture and how he's going to impact the young, the young and up and coming. You know what I mean?
Right.
Cause hip hop has so many components of education with inside the hip hop culture, and I think a lot of people miss that the education.
Right.
Not only just from the music, but from the art form of how people navigate and how they look at life. It's a lot of education in hip hop that can help you navigate in what we call a positive and righteous journey.
Right.
For
Right.
those who are willing to accept that positive and righteous journey. So you tapped in and told us where you from, how long you've been doing it, why you started and who were some of your favorite legends and the greats. So for a parent that listen to you and that's approving of their child listening to your music, um, for a writer that's a freelance hip hop writer, or he's a freelance hip hop journalist. Who is S?
S S is a couple of things. So S, he's a regular dude. Just a common man that just has a passion for hip hop, and just tries to express himself through the hip hop medium. You know, I like to speak on, regular stuff that, the average person can relate to. I mean, my life isn't, knock on wood. I don't live a complicated life. I don't, I'm not out there harming people or, pushing poison down people's throats. I just try to speak my reality, my truth, and, try to express it in a way that other people could be able to see a little bit of themselves in me, or see a little bit of me in them, basically. So, that's basically what I do. I like to consider myself, I make grown man rap, mature hip hop for people that are, at my stage in life. I am a little bit older. I'm a family man, husband, father, all that good stuff. And, I just like to express hip hop that reflects, my age bracket. I make music for everybody, but, um, you know, typically people in my age bracket tend to really, relate to what I talk about, because, they see, pieces of me in themselves. So that's basically it.
Okay, okay, great, great, great. I'm glad you said that. So let's get into your background and let's get into some things that you learned, you know, as a child that made you a good artist, coming from, the older people in your family, like your parents and your grandparents, aunties and uncle. And so let's get into your culture, because a lot of people don't want to talk about the culture that they're from, and
Mm,
and so I tell when I tell a lot of people, my background, when I tell them, West Africa, German, Norwegian, they be like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, because my mother's side originated from Frankfurt, Germany. You know what I'm saying? And
mm,
my grandfather's side originated from Norwegian, and my both of my grandmother's side is from Western Africa. You know what I mean? That's where they originated from. And so when
right.
I tell people, they was like, man, your bloodline is all over the place. I was like, yeah. I said, but for people to know, a lot of people bloodline is like that, but they just don't tap into it to find out who they truly are. So
Right.
you can't know where you're going until you know who you truly are.
Right.
You know what I
True.
mean? And so that's why I wanted to ask you about, your cultural side that, impacts your bloodline. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, both of my parents are West African, Cameroon to be exact. Both my
Okay.
mother and father, their parents are from the same place. So, um, you know, they moved to Canada in the early '70s, mid '70s, and, as grad students, they had scholarships to study, over here. And, soon after, they had myself and my two siblings. So, growing up in, Canadian society, North American, society, with African parents, and, their upbringing and what values, they wanted to pass on to us, and just trying to navigate through, these two worlds, these two cultures, I think molded me to, the person that I am today. Because, there's differences in, if anybody who has West African or even Caribbean parents, or immigrant parents for that matter, there are slight differences between, the upbringing, the values that they see as important, versus, how, people raise their families here in North America. So, taking little bits of that, and, at the same time trying to fit in, to North American, way of life. You take little bits and pieces, and, you try to navigate, through it all, trying to, um, you know, take pieces of these different elements, that, and, try to be the best person that you can be. So, yeah, I'm a West African background, North American society, and things that, we may take for granted here in North America. They hold a little bit more higher regard over in West Africa, and vice versa. So I think it helped me become more well-rounded, and have a different perspective on life that maybe somebody else wouldn't have. So I think taking some of that helped in my outlook on life, and then being able to translate some of that into my writing. I think that's one of the things that's benefited me in being able to do what I do and how I do it as well.
I can dig it. I can dig it. I can dig it, man. So, as a child, man, how did the hip hop culture influence you?
Man, so just going back to the whole culture thing. So I'm born Canadian, parents Cameroonian, but I did spend some of my childhood in the Caribbean. I lived in Trinidad and Tobago. So shouts out to TNT. So I was living in Trinidad at the time. This was back in 80, between 84 and 91 is when I lived in Trinidad. So it was 1987 when, during regularly scheduled television programming, uh, a video came on, music video came on. It was these three dudes, bucket hats, Adidas sneakers with no laces, walking down the street, doing this thing that at the time I didn't even know it was called rap. But they weren't singing and they weren't talking. It was something in between that they were doing, and it was like the most captivating thing that I'd ever seen. Had no idea what it was, but all I know is when I saw it, I wanted to, I was hooked. My eyes were hooked on the TV, and I wanted to see and experience more of what it was. And
Mm-hmm.
as I got a little older and got exposed to a little bit more, I learned it was called rap. Hip hop culture, Run DMC. You know, Everything started to fall in place as years progressed. That this music, this art form was something that was going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future. And man, I think that was the turning point. It was Tricky by Run DMC. It was the video that caught my eye, and it would never be the same for me. That
Okay,
was
okay,
that
okay. I
that
understand. I definitely understand, bro. I definitely understand because for me, man, I know this Ron DMC, but bro, like when LL just made me be like, bro, how does somebody talk about a radio on one track like that? You know what I mean? Like I'm like, whoa, bro. Like, and then after LL, man, Rakim just like
right.
Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Karis One just took me to a whole nother dimension. Karis One
Yeah.
made me think. Karis One made me
Yes.
think as a youth, make my mind
Yeah.
elevate. Because
Yes.
he was talking about black and brown people, the political form that we go through, and
Right.
and and how that power of education it can break all chains. And I'm like, some
Yeah.
what? Like this dude is talking
Y-
about this in the art form of rap, and it's selling, like selling
Yeah.
off the
Yeah.
shelf. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. And then just Rakim, man. I just feel to this day, man, that Rakim was so much way before his time, bro. Way before his
Yes.
time, man.
Yeah.
He said it's better when it's loud because I like to move the crowd. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like I was like, then he was like thinking of a master plan. He got nothing but sweat inside his hand. I'm like, oh man, like, and then Big Daddy Kane was just this
Whew.
smooth dude, ladies man. You know,
Yeah.
um, all the
And he was
ladies loved
nasty.
him, man. He had the nice fro, with the shape up around it with the three cuts on the side, and he dressed in slacks and silk shirts and
Yeah.
and 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 women just used to go crazy over his dark skin and like I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, man, this is crazy, man. This is crazy. So I can I can definitely understand being influenced, man. So when you first began to write and you kind of recited your rap, and it's what's interesting to me about our parents and the the old school mentality is they didn't think the rap was gonna be around. They was like, it's just a
Nope.
fad, you know.
Yep.
A bunch of kids jumbling a lot of words together and with some nice percussions that came from R&B. Did they tell you quick? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, those percussions they came from blues, R&B, and jazz, and
Yeah.
and 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 the African sound of the Congos and stuff like that. So they like, yeah, they really adapted the culture and like, but that's what people don't talk about. It. Hip hop adapted the black culture in a way that's unmatched with anything, man. There was we can go back to different genres, man, like from hip hop to blues to jazz to gospel to country to rock. You know, like people don't know that BB King didn't even play left-handed on stage, but he was right-handed when he played on stage, but he taught Jimi Hendrix how to play a guitar left-handed. Like,
Mm.
this is crazy that BB King was Jimi Hendrix's teacher. You know what I
Crazy.
mean? That it's crazy that Patti LaBelle was Luther Vandross' singing coach.
Wow.
You know, so it's crazy, man. So the culture has been there for so long, man. Because you got to think, man, like in the rock section, when Chuck Berry came out, man, the white people ain't know what to think. They was blown away. Like this dude can play the rhythm, the lead, and bass, and he can play all of them even-handed, left and right hand, and he can
Crazy.
sing. Like they know what to think, man. So you know it's crazy. So now, upon you adapting to this culture and just sitting there writing, and you know when you first really knew you had something, and how did you explain this to your parents?
I think in the early goings, my parents saw it as just, it's just this thing that these kids do. It's not gonna be around. It's just a fad. It's just a phase that he's going through. He's gonna outgrow it at some point. And I'd be downstairs in my basement with with my pen and pad writing. I'd have my little boom box, my little cassette tapes. So I'd record instrumentals, or I dub instrumentals onto cassette, and dub it a bunch of times, basically loop it to create a instrumental to rhyme over, and then I'd have the other cassette and the other deck, where I'd actually record the vocals on the two deck boombox. You push the record button,
Mm-hmm.
record your rhyme. I'd make these little cassette tapes, and I'd play them over and over and over and over again. And then my parents would just, they just kind of shake their head and laugh. Yeah, it's just something that these kids do. They're just having fun. It's just, eventually you'll outgrow it. Fast forward 5, 10 years, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still recording. I'm still writing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're asking, you know, being African parents in particular, they're very particular when it comes to education and studying and school and that kind of thing. And to see me, as I get older, still doing this thing that they thought I should have phased out of years prior. They'd always tease me about it and give me a hard time, but they didn't really stress, because I was still doing well in school and still bringing home good grades. But they saw, it was always a running joke, even well into the 2000s, when I was actually putting out music, that you still doing this rap is what they'd call it. You still doing this rap? You still doing this rap?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all good. I think if I wasn't doing well in school, they probably would have given me a harder time about it, and they probably would have made me stop. But you know, I took care of business, so they let me
Right,
have
right,
that.
right,
So
right. So what happened? You know, when your parents is out and about, maybe going to the grocery store or coming out of clothing store or just in passing with people they know, and somebody say, "Are you ex parents?" They say, "Yeah." Why? They say, "Yeah." Why? My kids love his music, and I'm gonna tell my kids that I seen S like live in person. What happened when your parents was like, hold up now,
They
hold.
actually, the first time they saw me on YouTube, they saw a YouTube video. I think it might have been either an interview or yeah, I think it was an interview that I did, like somebody similar to you from a, this was many years back. I was being interviewed, and I think I uploaded it to my YouTube as promo or whatever, and they saw it, and it was a really good interview. It was like a good half-hour in-depth interview. The interview like really did his research, went back to like tracing my steps, childhood, all the way to I think my second album. And they were watching it and they were like, wow, this guy is, he's actually taking this thing somewhere. He's actually, people actually checking for this guy. He's actually,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
not just a fad. It's not just a useless hobby. People actually want to care about what this guy has to say, and they're taking time out of their life to interview him and research
Mm-hmm.
and formulate really well thought out questions. And there's comments in the YouTube section, people actually engaging with this. So wow, this is actually for real. So I think in the early goings, I don't think they truly understood the power, and you know how serious this art form is, and how serious I was taking it at the time. And for them to actually see it firsthand with their own eyes, watch the video, scroll through the comments, see what people are saying, and they're like, "Oh wow, this is for real." Hey, congrats.
Right.
That was sort of what legitimized everything that I've been trying to do all those years prior. That they were
Mm-hmm.
actually seeing for themselves that wow, this is actually more than just some hobby that you did as a teenager. You're actually, making an impact to somebody else's life or other people's lives. So I think
Right.
that's
So
when the
and so
realization.
I think as it was good for them to see that because
Yes, absolutely.
they really know they's like he been working on this for a long time. So now
Yeah,
they in their mind be like, okay then he know what
yeah,
he was doing. He know what he was doing. And now we see that his work is not in vain because it's inspiring and impacting other people's minds. Like, okay, then, we can appreciate the art form now. You know what I mean?
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, like you said, I think that's when the reality really set in for them that yeah, this is actually a big deal, and this isn't just some loose fad that he supposedly should have outgrown years prior. But he's
Right.
doing it, and it's actually impacting people in a positive way. So
That's a good
they
thing.
they
That's a
they're
good thing.
now they're great supporters. They support what I do.
Mhm.
Anytime I got vinyl pressed, they look at it and they smile like, wow, people actually still have record players. I say, hell yeah, vinyl is big right now. It's been big for the past decade. And
Yeah.
they're shocked that people still have record players, because back in the 70s when they were collecting soul records and Marvin Gaye records and Prince records and Michael Jackson records, they thought that record players died soon after. But it's like, no, 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 no. Any vinyl you have, don't toss that stuff out. Is
Collector's
like all
items,
those
man.
records.
Collectors.
Yeah, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Collectors,
So
man. And so
yeah,
with that being said, they supported you and and they do now essentially support you. So
yeah.
like with your siblings, man, cause your siblings got people that's close to your age and they got friends and stuff. So how do they tell you that people talk about how great their brother is?
Ah, well, actually, my younger brother, so my baby brother, he's 10 years younger than me. He's also a musician. He produces, he makes beats, he produces albums,
Hmm.
and he does pretty well for himself. He tours, well, different parts of the world. He's toured and in Europe and Asia and South America. I mean, he's been all over the place. So he's doing pretty well for himself. So he understands. He presses vinyl too. He releases pretty much every year. So
Hmm.
he understands my middle siblings, my younger sister. You know, she supports us both. She understands what we do. She sees, our activity online. So she's definitely understanding what we do, and the impact that what we do makes. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
support
okay.
support all around.
That's good. That's good. So let's get into um, as time went on. Um, how was that feeling for you, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, politically, all of the above, when you first touched the stage and people can recite your hooks or your songs while you're on that stage?
Mm. It's a high. It's a natural high that it's hard to explain if you're not somebody that's done it or
Hmm.
experienced it
Hmm.
themselves. Like we as artists, we do our best to share our truth with the audience. We create it for ourselves with the hope that other people can feel what we do or relate to what we do.
Hmm.
And when we take that to a live setting, and you have people, throwing a hand in the air, reciting a rhyme, or throwing a hand in the air, or a fist pump, or whatever it is, reacting to whatever it is you say, that's just sort of the validation that, everything all the hard work that you put in for all those years it's not in vain. And it's a great feeling. I mean, we all want to be validated in some way, legitimized
Hmm.
in some way,
Hmm.
and let us know that what we're doing is not falling on deaf ears, and people actually listening, internalizing what we say, and are able to take something positive away. And when people are able to recite lyrics that we write, or pull out of their wallet and spend money on our art, that's just the ultimate compliment, and piece of validation that everything we've done hasn't been in vain. So I'm always appreciative of any and all support, especially in the live setting, because it's not easy to get up there in front of strangers and entertain them for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever it is. But when you have people actually vibing and engaging what you're doing, that's love, man. That's just the
Right,
ultimate gesture of support. That's it's awesome.
right, right, right. And so I was just about to say, man, like this dialogue, man, I can tell that you're a very humble dude and you appreciative of all that has happened for you and you appreciative of how artists engage with you and how be like, oh man, he a cool dude, man. Like you can actually really sit down and have a conversation with him, man, and just really enjoy the conversation. Because with a lot of artists, you can't do that.
That's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. And I guess my stance has always been, and I've said it in other interviews with other people. It's not easy, especially in this day and age, with how much music is being pumped out on a daily basis, to keep people's attentions, or even to get people's attentions. And once you got their attention, the challenge is keeping their attention, because there's so much choice out there. There's
Mhm.
literally hundreds of thousands of songs, albums being released every single day.
Right.
So to have somebody take time out of their life to check you out, and actually come back and check you again, that's a privilege. We're not owed anything. People can spend their time anywhere they want. And if they come to you and then decide to come back again and again and again, man, that's a blessing that I never take for granted. So I always try to express my gratitude for anybody that's taking time out of their life to support what I'm trying to do. So that's the stance that I've always been taking, and I'm gonna continue to do that, because, like I said, it's not easy to gain anybody's attention and keep it at the same time. It's tough.
Right. 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 I can dig it. So I was listening to your singer today, You Want a Piece of Me. Let's talk about You Want a Piece of Me, man. And
Okay.
let's talk about you know, the creation of the song, the concept, the delivery, And let's let's talk about how you reeled in a lot of different listeners with that. You know what I mean? So tell me about "You Want a Piece of Me."
So you, so you want a piece of me was the first single that I wrote, actually wrote for album. So the album that I just put out this past February called "You Want a Piece of Me." Producer, shout out to my dude J Pal. He sent me a batch of beats. That was the very first beat that I tackled, and I don't know, it's just the vibe, the thought process going through my head at the time was, I wanted to do something a little bit different on this particular album compared to previous releases. I never want to repeat the same theme over and over and over again. So I wanted to get a little bit more personal on this record. I've touched on my personal life a little bit in past
Yeah, you did.
albums, but I really wanted to go a little bit deeper on this one and share pieces of me that maybe I hadn't shared in the past. So that's kind of what inspired this one. And I decided to speak on my humble beginnings. Talk about my parents as being my biggest my heroes, the people that inspired me to be the man that I am today. Given where they came from and the sacrifices they made to give me opportunity to succeed in life. So I wanted to speak on that, and basically talk about how their influence into me being the man that I am, the father that I am, the husband that I am. And that's basically it. I just wanted to share pieces of me that people maybe didn't know before.
Right. So you really went in depth. You talked about your culture. You talk about your parents, and you talk about how you visualize and how you see things. And so
Right.
with all that's going on in society in the world, and I said to myself, I said, "Wow, this brother really keeps an open mind with a lot of positive energy, and his synergy is off the hook." You know what I mean? And
Mm,
and,
cheers.
and so I was like, "That's very interesting, man." How even when you talk about being your parents being immigrants, bro, you got to think that that's bringing that political form to hip hop, where people don't know how hard it was. It's hard now, but I can imagine how hard it was in those times, in those days, for
Yeah.
a immigrant to come to a place like Canada. Because what people don't know about Canada, man, it ain't easy to get in Canada, bro.
No.
Nah, bro. It ain't easy. Canada plays no games, bro. They plays no games. It's no like I got a homegirl out there. My homegirl, Layla G Star. She's out there in Canada, and she's from Texas. And she was like, "Boy, listen here. It was hard for me to get in Canada, man." She was like, "I really had to know somebody. They really had to show me how to do paperwork. Like it was very very hard." She said she wanted to move to Canada a while back, but she said it took her about 2 years to actually get into Canada with all the paperwork
Wow.
she had to go through. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so um, tell us, tell people, man, about the whole, you know, you dropped that jewel, but people in the U.S. And I heard Drake say this. He said the hip hop culture in Canada is very different from the hip hop culture in the U.S. And people like, what do you mean? And so I'm glad I have you on here, man. So how is it different to you from the hip hop culture in Canada to the hip hop culture in the U.S.? How would you say it's different?
Well, it's different. Okay, so I'm gonna speak. I'm gonna speak from the perspective of the Greater Toronto area, because I mean that's the area that where I reside. So the Greater Toronto area. I mean, there's a lot of different influences here. So there's a pretty big West Indian or Caribbean influence here. A lot of Trinis, a lot of Jamaicans, Bajans. I mean, you can find pretty much every part of the world in this city. So, I mean, you got a huge, Asian population, again, Africans, Europeans. I mean, there's a little bit of everything here. So I think a lot of that gets reflected in the music as well, in
Hmm.
different sounds, just the different accents, and then also just society in general. Just there's differences between, the way society is here versus stateside, even though we're neighbors, just the subtleties are different. I mean, I'll give an example. Uh, um, gun, the gun thing. I mean, that's the average Canadian doesn't really think about owning a gun, but it's very different stateside, and I think
Yeah.
with that comes differences in how people live, how people move on a day-to-day basis. You know, different aspects of violence. Different. I mean, it's just different. I've had homies from the states come up here, and they're like, they feel a little uneasy because you can't bring your gun across the border. So maybe they might have been used to carrying a gun stateside, and they come up here, and they don't have their piece on them, and it's almost like they don't know what to do. Should they
Yeah.
be looking over their
Yeah.
shoulder? Is just a different vibe up here. I mean, it's pretty laid back up here. Not to say that there's not violence. I'm not saying that, but it's just the average Canadian doesn't really think about owning a gun the way that maybe somebody south of the border might.
Right,
Um,
right, right,
you
right,
know,
right. I understand. I understand. So now, so it seems like to me, because I have a couple of, I got a, I'm a big sports guy too. So I do 910 sports podcast with a couple of my partners. And I was telling them one of my other partners, he was like, man, because he a big sports fan as well. So he's been to Toronto, watch the Raptors and stuff like that. And he was like, man, I was out there for about 2 weeks, man. I was like, wow. He was like, I can really see why people move here, man, and they have so much peace of mind, man. He was like, it was just so laid back, so peaceful, and he says so much. He said, man, from the U.S., people you don't really know until you go to Canada, man. He was like, I had no idea that it was that much fun. I had no idea that the nightlife was just off the hook. I had no idea that it was so many things to do during the day. People mingle and it's a lot of heavy business corporate business that go on in Canada, man. He said so. If you have, he was like, man, I'm telling you, Jay. He said you do the podcast thing, you do the music, you into the sports. He said, and you a dope businessman. He said, man, so if you get those business contacts in Canada, bro, that's a whole different lane for you, man. That's a whole different lane. And he
right,
was like, he said, and I'm gonna go back to just learn more about the Canadian culture, man. He's like, I definitely need to go back, man. And he's like, he just loved it. He was just blown away, bro. And a lot of people that I hear, that visit Toronto and Montreal and stuff like, cause
right,
I used to watch a lot of the Montreal Expos games when I was coming up as a
right,
kid. You know what I mean?
right.
And so I was like, man, this is amazing, man. And so I can understand what you're saying about, the guys be so uneasy that's maybe coming from New York or Louisiana or Miami or coming from Atlanta or something like that, because like we gotta face it, man. In the States, everybody carry a piece. They do. They do, man. They do. And like, but you gotta wrap your mind around this is a new place. Like, I don't know
Mm,
nobody. I
right,
don't have enemies here. All I'm coming
right,
over here to do is build a network, to
right.
create something new. And so when you have that mindset, then you can appreciate, coming to Toronto and and visiting and learning more about Canada, and then even just going on over the summertime and just going on some of the boat parties. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Which I heard are amazing. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's definitely a lot to do, man. And as far as that hip hop culture, man, it's a lot of legendary people over there, man. And I just be reading up on some things and um tell me about the DJs over there, man, and how they DJ and artist relationship is crazy great, like I've heard.
I mean, I mean, this probably since like the '90s. I mean, there's been a scene up here. MC DJ dynamic has been off the chain. It's just a matter of exposure. The
Hmm.
infrastructure here in Canada for urban music. I'm not just going to limit it to hip hop, but I'll say urban music is just
Hmm.
it could have been better. I mean, I don't think the infrastructure for urban music got the same kind of support as say like country and other genres. So it was always up until maybe I'm gonna say the mid 2000s, like when like the Drakes and the Justin Biebers of the world started to really, really break, that
Hmm.
you start to see, take notice of what was going on up here. I mean, there's always been talent up here, but you know, I don't think labels were really willing to invest in Canadian urban music the way
Hmm.
that they should have,
Right.
given the trajectory of urban music. I mean, it's the biggest selling music hands down,
Hmm.
for at least a decade. But I think back then they didn't see it, or they didn't see where this thing was going, and for whatever reason they didn't invest in it as much. But I mean, DJs, I mean, college radio, I mean, they've been a pillar of the culture from way back,
Hmm.
breaking a lot of legendary artists, the Maestro Fresh Westers of the world, who's he's considered the godfather of Canadian rap. I mean, you have the Michie Me's, the K Forces, the Rumble. I mean, Dream Warriors, Socrates, Mathematic. I mean, there's countless MCs that have gotten noticed on the international stage, but just didn't get that push that they needed. You know, a lot
Hmm.
of the college radio stations, DJ X, Ron Nelson, who's a pillar of Canadian, in the Canadian rap scene. So um, yeah, I mean, yeah, DJs, MCs. I mean, they've always been here. Talent has always been up here. But as far as getting that push to get recognition on a national or even a global stage didn't happen really until like the Drakes of the world like really started to pop off, and that's when I think people started to take notice and step up the investment in Canadian music. So,
Right, right. But and it's funny you say that because like Drake just was just different. He already had that fan base from the TV show,
yeah,
and
yeah,
but
yeah,
he always said in his interview, man, he was like, man, y'all been missing out, man, cause Canada
yeah,
got some of the dopest artists in the world. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He said that, man, and then OVO, so he came out with Party Next Door and stuff. He was like, but there's tons of artists like this over here, man. Just come and tap in with me. You know what I mean?
right.
And here I am interviewing you. So he was right. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? He was right. He was right, bro. So, I can definitely dig it, man. Now, is the music scene over in Canada, man, how political can the radio stations be?
How political?
As far as
Pol-
when I say political, I know this person that know this person. So since he's, you know, a friend of my son, and I know a lot of people through my nonprofit world on the radio station, let me slide him in. When some of the guys that may be his peers been trying to get on the radio forever, but just because
yeah,
of who he knows, he can get in.
yeah,
That's what I mean by political, because that's how it is
yeah,
in the US. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. It's the same. It's the same here as well. It's the
Okay.
same as here, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why a lot of artists they sort of just bypass the whole brick and mortar radio thing. I think
Mm.
people focus more on the internet now. Internet is the way to go anyways. Bigger reach, and it's sort of level. Once the internet kind of took off, it sort of leveled the playing field. And nowadays, you see podcasts and online radio popping up any and everywhere. So I think indie artists spend more of their time going to, the online radio route as opposed to trying to hit up the FM stations that are only going to play the same 10 songs every hour on the hour. So it's just
Yeah.
it's almost pointless. Like artists like myself, maybe 15, 20 years ago, that was the perceived end goal is to get on FM radio, but in the last 10 years, that's FM radio is almost irrelevant. Like the internet is way better reach. We can reach pretty much every part of the globe online, and it serves artists even better. To be perfectly honest, I mean,
You're right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
I
just the
mean,
way it is.
but I think that you're right. But I just said I think that well, as far as communication on Clear Channel Radio, satellite radio, Sirius satellite radio, and stuff like that, it still got a wave where I think an international artist
Yeah,
can benefit from it, and then it's got a wave that a U.S. artist can benefit from it because with a lot of the internet, you have your analytics where who's listening to in Africa and
right,
Europe, Germany and Czech
right.
Republic. But I think for artists like you getting on Clear Channel in the US, that's gonna break you even more. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
So
yeah,
so
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, I think it's still a lane. It's just on how an artist and his team should strategize to really take opportunity of that lane. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Like Sirius XM, yeah. Like I've submitted music to DJs on certain DJ platforms on Sirius XM. Knock on wood, I've been fortunate to get a few spins over the years. But yeah, I still consider that internet. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right,
As
right,
far
right,
as
right,
like your
right.
your local FM stations, yeah, there's always all kinds of red tape and behind the scenes politics that it's discouraged a lot of artists like myself to just not even bother with it anymore because yeah, it's who you know and who did a favor for who, and it's not about the music, it's not about the quality, it's about the relationships. And I get that. It's who greases whose palm better. That seems to be the way to go for brick and mortar radio. So
Right,
that's
right,
why
right, right.
I've kind of decided to go the internet route more so in the last decade or so.
Okay, okay. And so, with that being said, the one last thing I want to tap in with you about, man, and we're gonna close out. Um, I've been saying on my timeline, I just didn't realize that it was that many high end music festivals in Canada, man. Like, what the world, bro? Like, I just been seeing this a lot of great festivals over there, man.
Yeah, yeah, like it's not new. There's always been this kind of energy up here for a
Hmm.
lot of years. It's just a matter of people from the outside being able to tap in and see what's going on up here. So,
Okay.
our touring artists come through here on the regular, big names come through here, and you get local openers and whatnot being able to get on stages with some of these folks and perform. And yeah, there's great support for a lot of these artists, and that's why they continue to book shows up here. So same with the festivals. There's festivals in pretty much every province in the country,
Hmm.
and yeah, there's good energy. There's quality hip hop up here. Opportunities for hip hop to thrive. It's just a matter of people taking notice and supporting. Putting the dollars behind it to support and cultivate the talent that's up here.
No doubt, no doubt, man, no doubt, man.
Yeah.
I definitely can appreciate that. And so, as I'm learning more and I'm tapped in with you now, I'll definitely be letting artists, in the U.S. know, man, that there's lanes that you can go over to Canada and enter some of these music festivals and network and just build another pipeline in a place that's like, cause I heard Vince Carter say this 20 years ago, bro. I heard Vince Carter say he tell all his homeboys and family members, man, visit Toronto, man, visit Toronto,
Yeah.
and now that he's retired, he still talks about it a lot, and he talks about the businesses that he opened and the business people
Yeah.
that he's met over there, and just great relationships. So I definitely glad I tapped in with you, and salute to you, MJ, and salute to you, S, and salute
Salute
to
MJ.
your engineer who just be making your sound so crisp and so clear, man. So salute to
Uh,
your engineer, man.
Shout out. I mean, I'm just gonna take a second to shout out my man DJ Merciless. He's been my engineer since 2010, and yeah, he's the guy responsible for making my sound crisp and ready for the radio and whatever outlets I send my music to. So shouts out to him. Shouts out to MJ for um, you know putting you on to me, and shout out to my dude Righteous for Tout Recordings for the support, and giving me these different opportunities to share my thoughts with folks like yourself. So thank you for having me on your platform.
Yes, sir, man. And I want to tap back in with you in about 6 months and bring you back and see what's new, man, and just chop it up with you, man, and see what you got going on and see if have you put any artists up under you yet. Because you've been in the game for a long time. So artists can stand to learn a lot from you so they won't kind of make the mistakes that everybody else is making because they'll have a whole tour guide to this music thing. You know what I mean?
Right up.
Yeah,
Indeed,
yeah,
indeed.
man. Yeah, so I am looking for you to, if you don't already have it, to definitely launch a label and have artists up under you and do something great, for the city of Toronto and just to really teach these artists and just to engage your label with a nonprofit. And so, you can
Mhm.
impact the community through the art form of music. I'm looking forward to you doing that.
Indeed. Definitely.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Definitely.
sir. So, guys, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Exquisite Conversations podcast. You know, um, in absence today, publicist Nicole Jordan. She's out in ATL, handling some business with one of our clients, and just want to say, I want to thank her for, giving me this platform to really, tap in with people like yourself, and it's been a pleasure talking with you, man. And just keep doing what you're doing, and you know, all I got to say is Godspeed, God's favor, man. Salute to you.
Likewise. Likewise. Salute to you too.
All
Appreciate
right,
you.
peace.
Peace.